I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on the Spotlight Network, we're diving into a riveting story that's as gripping as it is timely. Joseph Kress, a former detective lieutenant with 26 years of experience, reveals the devastating impact of addiction on America in his powerful book. It is called Single-Handed. With chilling truth and hard-earned insights, Kress shares a journey from personal tragedy to a relentless battle against drug trafficking, a story that could change how we confront the addiction crisis. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Prime 7 Media for helping us put him in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support authors like him by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing his amazing book. The links are below this interview. Joe, great to see you here today on Spotlight. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Logan. It's a pleasure to be with you.
We talked last about a half a year ago. We talked about the depths and the vast issues America is facing with its addiction problems. And it still feels like nothing significant has been done on a national level. Do you agree?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We've been fighting this quote war on drugs since the early 1960s, and it's worse now today than it ever has been in the past.
Yeah. And it's more deadly than it ever has been. The
Oh,
marijuana is stronger. Fentanyl is a game changer when it comes to people ODing and dying. Um, what's your prescription for America? How can we change? What do we need to do?
America is going through some time where fentanyl, the introduction of fentanyl and xylazine into this country is just killing people like never before. And people don't realize that if you have three little granules of fentanyl, the size of a granule of sugar, and you consume it, you're dead. The cartels in Mexico are actually taking and liquefying fentanyl. Then they're soaking marijuana in the fentanyl. And when they dry it, people induce marijuana while they're smoking marijuana, and they can have a fentanyl overdose and die. It's just overwhelming because our country, well, with this open border situation that they've had, more fentanyl has come in than ever before. And, this stuff is so deadly, it's killing Americans. Well, 2 years ago, we had 109,680 people die in 1 year of drug overdose. So it's really terrible.
It's terrible. You're doing something to stop it. You've got a program that you're initiating in schools. Tell us a little bit about your program to help kids keep the habit before they start the habit.
Uh, you know, Through a lot of studies, the addiction process always starts with a beer. One beer, and it starts with kids in sixth grade. Oh, my dad's out of town. I took a six pack of beer out of the refrigerator, and come on over. We'll have a couple of beers, and they like that little buzz that they get from drinking a couple of beers. Well, then it always progresses so that instead of a couple of beers, they're each drinking a six pack of beer, and they're getting drunk. And what happens is when their ability to say no is diminished, somebody will pull out a joint of marijuana or a tab of LSD, and next thing you know, they're using harder drugs that are going to do significant damage to them. And it seems that our country just doesn't get it. The education system has really dropped the ball. When we have an opportunity to teach kids about drug and alcohol awareness, and we're not doing that. They have regulations like in Pennsylvania, where I'm at. They have a regulation that says that in every year from kindergarten through 12th grade, they have to teach education about drug and alcohol prevention. And a lot of schools just don't do it. I've interviewed many students, and the students all say the same thing. Oh, yeah, they talked to us for about 15 minutes this year about drugs. That's not getting the job done.
Exactly, exactly. It needs to be part of the curriculum. It has to be taught just like you're teaching mathematics. Mathematics, if you don't learn it, won't kill you. If you don't learn about drugs, it will kill you. So in some ways, it's much more significant. That's for sure. We talked a little bit in the introduction that the drug tragedy had struck personal to you. Tell us a little bit about your own experiences with this blight.
Well, my older brother got married on Valentine's Day in a candlelight ceremony at St. Peter's Cathedral here in Erie. They were going to go to Hawaii, but because of a weather situation, they couldn't fly. So they spent 3 days here in Erie and they changed their plans and drove to Washington, Florida. Then they ended up at the Mardi Gras in New Orleans. They're innocently having dinner in a restaurant, and a couple got seated at the table next to them. And the guy strikes up a conversation. Oh, you here for the Mardi Gras? No, we're here on our honeymoon. We got married 10 days ago. And, oh, waitress, get them a glass of wine on us. Well, they celebrated with a drink of wine, and my brother and sister-in-law talked to this couple for maybe a half hour, 45 minutes while they're having dinner. They thanked them and went down through the French Quarter afterwards, and they walked into a tavern. It's Mardi Gras. Everybody's partying. They walk into this tavern, and a few minutes later, in walks this couple. Oh, Greg, Janet, bartender, get them a glass of wine on us. They just got married on Valentine's. Well, they socialized with this couple till the end of the evening. At the end of the evening, what happened is the guy said that he would like to make a nice New Orleans style breakfast for my brother and sister-in-law. Well, they go to this apartment, and when they walk in, the girl said, Janet, sit next to me here on the couch. The guy said, hey, Greg, I'd like to show you something in the other room. They walked in the room, the guy closed the door, and he pulled a gun on my brother. And I want your money, your credit cards, and your jewelry. My brother just raised his hands and said, hey, it's more trouble than it's worth, meaning I'm 25. I don't have anything worth doing this for. And the guy shot my brother in the face 6 times. Then he stabbed him 17 times. And when the woman heard the gun go off, she pulled out of her purse a rusty hook carpet knife and slit my sister-in-law's throat. She survived only by the grace of God. And my brother was killed. But the police were able to arrest these 2 minutes later because they had drugged my sister-in-law's body out to the street. And she was only unconscious. She wasn't dead. She got up and ran. And a young man called the police in an ambulance, and they saved her life. And they followed this heavy blood trail right back up into this place and arrested them. Both of those people were drug users. And that's how it impacted my family. It was just devastating. 10 days after he was married, we were planning his funeral.
Unbelievable. A complete tragedy. No doubt that drugs played a big role in this because
Oh, yeah.
only somebody who's on drugs would do something so vicious, so unwarranted,
Absolutely.
so unprovoked.
And it was all done to rob them, just so
Yeah.
they could get more money for more drugs.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Let's talk a little bit about, I'm so sorry for your tragedy. It's a mind-blowing story. I'm
Thank
sure
you.
it's had profound impacts on you and the rest of your family. And I'm sure your brother is missed so much till this day. So I'm so sorry for your loss. Let's talk a little bit about your book, Single-Handed. Why is it called Single-Handed? And what do you hope people learn from it?
Well, after I retired from the police department after 26 years of being a police officer, the whole reason I became a cop was because of what happened to my brother. But I wanted to write a book as a tribute to my brother, explaining, what happened and then how it drove me to become an officer. And I had a wonderful career. I arrested 9 people for murder. I have captured 391 on America's Most Wanted. I was shot doing the entry of a drug search warrant. Fortunately, I survived it. And, I just had a wonderful career. I was deputized FBI, Immigration and Custom Enforcement, DEA, ATF, and Secret Service. And I worked with all those federal agencies. But I wrote the book as a tribute to Greg. And the response I got was overwhelming. It has 49 5-star reviews on Amazon. I've been in contact with some people who were interested in making my book a movie. And I just wanted people to understand the more than 2/3 of my book is all true, every single word. The ending is not true, but I felt that I was fighting this war because I had started a drug and alcohol awareness program for middle and high school students. I feel like I'm fighting this war to help get kids the education they need to make a valued decision about drug and alcohol use. I feel like I'm doing it single-handedly because I've met with governors, state representatives, secretaries of health and human services, senators, congressmen. They all say the same thing. Wow, your program's amazing. It's an amazing program. We got to work to get this in the schools. When you leave their office, they don't remember your name. They could care less. And unfortunately, that's the attitude that has us in the situation we are nationwide. Our drug addiction in this country is worse than it's ever been.
I think all of the dispensaries that you see around, the legalization of marijuana is just adding to it because it makes it seem like drugs aren't that bad. And as you know firsthand, both as a brother who lost a brother and a police officer, drugs are at the root of everything. You know, money isn't the root of all evil. In today's society, drugs are the root of most evil. Uh,
Absolutely.
it's really, really a shame that the government kind of winks at it by saying, yeah, you can buy it at our shops as long as we're collecting a big tax on it. These drugs are ruining lives. Marijuana certainly is a gateway drug, no doubt.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've been qualified 85 times in federal and state court as an expert in the field of drugs. And the FBI Bureau of Justice Statistics proves over 80% of all crime, homicide, burglary, robbery, carjacking, all crime, 80% is drug involved in one way or another. Drugs are involved in it one way or another.
Absolutely. The money to buy the drug sale gone wrong, people high on drugs, and that's why they had no judgment or did something vicious and cruel. I
Absolutely.
agree 100%. And as we said last time, at this point in our lives, everybody knows somebody who knows somebody who died of a drug overdose. If not, if it's not even closer than that. Before we leave to Joe today, we got a couple more minutes. I want to talk a little bit more about your drug and alcohol awareness program. Where can people find out about it? What kind of services do you provide to school districts that would be interested?
Well, I believe I mentioned to you prior to coming on online. I sent about 3 months ago. I sent 50 letters to 50 superintendents of school districts in 50 school districts in the Cleveland, Ohio area. I got one response, sight unseen. They feel that there's no need to teach kids about drug and alcohol addiction. Yet, the number one amount, the highest amount of people who die of drug overdose is from 17 years old to 45 years old. People who have just recently gotten out of high school are the ones that are addicted, and it's just a matter of time before they get 3 granules of fentanyl in their pill. The cartels are making these pills with all kinds of different drugs in it, xylazine. They make it with fentanyl in it. And in Philadelphia last summer, they took and they seized street drugs, pills, and all kinds of different street drugs. And they found that 90% of those seizures contained fentanyl in every one of those drugs that they had seized. So it's just a matter of Russian roulette.
Is
Eventually, their number is going to come up.
Exactly. And the bullet's the size of a granule of sugar, which
Yeah,
is absolutely chilling, absolutely frightening. The name of the book is Single-Handed. It is filled with chilling truth and hard-earned insights. Joe shares within the book his journey from a personal tragedy to a relentless battle against drug trafficking. It's a story that could change how we confront the drug addiction crisis in America. Hopefully, things will change. We have a new president coming into office in a few months. Hopefully, he will take the war on drugs seriously and declare war on fentanyl and all of the other forms of illicit drugs out there. Joe, thank you so much for joining me here today on Spotlight.
Thank you for having me, Logan. It's really been a pleasure seeing you again.
It's been a pleasure having you back on the show. You're always welcomed. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.